It's been a long time since anyone raised eyebrows at a female reporter covering a men's sports team. But if that represents progress, a recent harassment case involving a female sports writer suggests there's still a long way to go. Adam Riley has more.
I behave badly towards nice people.
University of Minnesota athletic director Norwood Teague resigned in disgrace last week after inappropriately touching two women and sending lewd texts to one of them. At the Star Tribune newspaper, reporter Amelia Reyno helped lead the coverage.
It's ugly.
Yeah.
It is very ugly.
But then Reyno, who covers Minnesota's basketball team, became part of the story.
Amelia Reyno says she regrets not saying something sooner.
In a column, Reyno revealed that she'd been harassed by Teague, describing inappropriate texts and physical advances she said made her vomit.
I think that Amelia Reyno needs to be applauded for coming forth with this story.
Absolutely.
And
when Reyno told her bosses about the harassment last year, they suggested confronting Teague, contacting his superiors, or changing beats. Instead, she chose to wait. I didn't want my career interrupted because of a powerful man's misdeeds, Reyno writes. Making a formal complaint could have forced me to take another beat, perhaps out of sports. It's been 4 decades since the first female sports reporter entered a men's locker room. And unfortunately, harassment by the men they cover
I want to kiss you.
still seems to be an occupational hazard.
God, I gotta love Joe Namath. Jeez. That much hasn't changed so much.
Alcohol may have been involved there, Emily, I think.
Well, I think alcohol was involved in the Teague thing, too, because
Yeah.
some of what he did was really, really outrageous. I sympathize with her because she did all the right things. She told her bosses about it. She didn't dismiss it. She didn't say, I can handle it on my own. And they came up with, a whole variety of ways that she could deal with it. But she wasn't public about it. And she probably should have done a little bit more research, and had she would have discovered that this was a pattern with him, and then she would have had another story.
I think, though, that her account, as horrible as it is to read, number one, is not isolated. You know, there are female sports reporters that deal with this situation on a regular basis, and the way that she wrote about it, I think, reveals the struggle that so many reporters have, especially female reporters, when you're dealing with powerful institutions and you're dealing with issues about access. Colleges and universities are notoriously difficult to work with in terms of getting availability to players, staff, coaches, and things like that. And it's horrible to see somebody try to negotiate their own personal safety just for the purposes of their career. So it's horrible, but I don't think it's isolated in any way.
Sure.
You know, I'm thinking some of our viewers may be watching this and saying, what makes them think that this is unique to the media? I think that women deal with sexism in all aspects of work and life, and this is just yet another example.
Well, except for
of that.
this is a here they are. She's in the public. She's
Right.
doing a service, and yet in order to do it, she's
exactly. But I'm sure that female stockbrokers, lawyers. MBTA drivers, everything else. It's just a sad fact of life. Maybe there's some good to come out of the fact that this is coming up in a media context, because this kind of serves to get this issue out in the open more than it has in the past.
Perhaps, Justin, you might be right in this way, that if she had explored more, she would have known there were others. Having been in a similar situation, I did know there were others, and so I had a choice to make about how far I wanted to take my own situation, because this is prevalent everywhere. A shout out to Melissa Lutke, who is based in Boston, one of the original group of people that filed the lawsuit for women sports reporters to get into the locker room, having experienced, you can imagine, this and more. So, this goes way, way back. So I have all kinds of sympathy for her and empathy for her. And by the way, for those saying, she has evidence, she got the text, she's got the other stuff, it's no question it happened, because the victim is always questioned. What did you do? What did you say? How did you lead on? Woman's trying to do her job covering the sports guy, and this guy, scum. And there's many other like him in many other fields, as you've so eloquently put it. So, she handled it the way that she felt was appropriate for her. I'm glad that other women were able to come out and say the same thing about this guy, and I'm glad he's dismissed now.
I agree with what I'm hearing. I'd just like to add one aspect to this that kind of troubles me. Here was this reporter. She really liked her beat. She was, by all accounts, very good at it. And yet she declined to go public and pursue this initially for fear that she would lose her beat. Well, that speaks to the culture of her employer, the Star Tribune. Now, you know, I don't want to throw them under the bus necessarily, but I do know from my own work experience that when your employer makes a big issue about its sexual harassment policy, and you've got to review videos and sign off, and it is talked about on a regular basis, and you know what the rules are, and there's no question about it, that over time can create a culture where this kind of thing is less likely to happen. And I wonder if the Star Tribune treaded around this a little too gingerly. Maybe they should have just said, this is outrageous, you're going to stay on that beat, and we're going to call this creep and his employers to account, and nothing's going to happen to you, we'll make sure of it. That might have been a stronger, more beneficial step.
Would have been a good story, too.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's what I was
exactly.
saying.